So Facebook ads can be a money generator if you know how to run consistently profitable campaigns. I've been doing this for around about 3,000 days. I spent 8 figures on ads, and in this video, I'm going to discuss the types of bid strategy and leave you with some information on how to make Facebook ads work for you, basically. So the most traditional way of running ads is lowest cost. This is also called highest volume. This is basically, I'm going to give a direct scenario between the two. You're telling Facebook you want to spend $1,000 a day. It's going to try and reach out, give you the lowest cost per purchase on all of your ads, and it's going to spend $1,000 per day. So some days that's brilliant. You're going to get a lot of sales and you're going to be profitable. But there's other days where there's no demand for your product, because at the end of the day, there's not even demand every single day, and it's going to come back with no sales or unprofitable sales. Big cap's a way that I've really leveraged for a long time, and it's basically where you tell Facebook you only want to spend your own money if you can get a certain cost per sale or under. So for example, you're saying, Facebook, I'm not profitable if you spend more than £50 to get me a customer. Don't spend above that. So that has its different scenarios, basically. As I said before, going back to the £1,000 per day, it might be some days where it fully spends that. It can get the relative cost per purchase that it wants, and then some days it doesn't. So it kind of says, right, there's not enough people that are wanting to buy this product, so I didn't spend your money. So I'm going to go down a few different things in this table about where it comes into it, what is the scalability, the efficiency, the creative volume, human error, and time, basically. So the first one's scalability. So there's both chances of being able to scale. There's plenty of use cases in both. There's absolutely no denial that lowest cost you can scale. With big caps, you can scale as well. So with lowest cost, this is the main crux of it. Like, a lot of people think big caps can't scale and lowest cost can't scale, but yeah, there's two great use cases for both. You can get to 10k, 100k per day doing both. So these both have that propensity, basically. So on the second one, efficiency, I've got big caps being highly efficient and lowest cost being low efficiencies. So not losing money is the key to making money. And this is kind of what I want to suggest with lowest cost. So on a good day, it's going to spend your money as planned. But on a bad day, it's going to spend without sales. So there's two different aspects. Lowest cost has the control as spend. And it just means it's going to guarantee you your full budget is going to spend despite the demand. Whereas big cap, on a good day, the spend is planned, which is great. But on a bad day, it doesn't spend. So this makes efficiency a lot higher. Your ad budget, as I said before, is a lot better not spent than just badly spent. So if you're not getting sales and it's still spending, that is what I think is efficiency, basically. So with creative volume, that's another one. So we'll go back to here. So think of big caps as like a backlog of ideas. I actually got this from a really, really good marketer called Taylor Holiday. He kind of says, with big caps, you need a lot of different ideas for it to work. And the aim in the game is just to make as many ideas as possible with big caps. And the beauty of big caps as well is that you can test all of your creatives at once. This means if you've got like 100 in your repository and you leverage the downside of it not spending, if it's not a good ad, there's no doubt of you can being able to put 100 or 200 different creatives on at the same time. Whereas lowest cost, you have to allocate a certain amount of budget. You might have to spend a certain multiple of your cost per acquisition on each ad. You need to turn it off if it's not working. And yeah, you need to, with lowest cost, you normally test in batches, which essentially means like if you've got creative back from your designer, you've got 20 different creatives, you might test like 5 at once, turn things off, and then try the other 5. It's a lot less volume with this aspect. I mean, if you're kind of spending like 10 to 20k per day, you will get a lot of creative volume despite that. But Big Cap gives you the propensity for like those brands aren't at that level to test everything at once, basically. Because yeah, as I said before, we've got that safety net, and I just want to kind of reinforce it in this aspect. In here, just gonna get the safety net up. Sorry, bear with me. Yeah. So if the poor performing ad, the big caps don't spend, and that's the spend without profit there. The fourth one is human error. So I wanted, this is quite a big part, and I've definitely done that wrong. So what it is essentially like, if you're running lowest cost, there's a lot of media buying logic and human interaction with it. So you need to understand where you're going to kill it, what are the metrics you're looking for, how long they're going to be running for before you make a decision. So there's a ton of different variables that come into every different media buyer. So I think what you normally see is like, it's very different. You probably see on Twitter that there's a lot of different media buying logic. And some of the times that with humans, like we have a lot of cognitive bias, especially when I'm making creators and I've done lowest cost before. Like there is occasions where you've maybe spent a little bit more time on and money on a certain creative, and you're actually in your head, you don't want it to not work, so you give it a little bit of leeway. So there's a lot of different biases that you have. You have confirmation bias, you've got emotions on the day, like you might have a stressful day and you're making erratic decisions. You might be scaling too quickly, and it kind of comes through that. Basically, there's a lot of different biases. Another thing as well is like, this is especially common when you're with like an agency. Like you probably had an agency or a media buyer working with you, and they're not turning off unprofitable ads. So like it might be 2 or 3 weeks, you kind of see ads still running. So there's that lag of time and not turning off things quickly. And I'll go back to like dependent on emotion as well. Like I've done it in the past where I've not seen a good results day and I've killed it off too quickly, or I've got impatient and I've scaled something. And it's not really like set in stone what you're doing sometimes. And it's, yeah, you can let your emotions decide it. And as well, like if an agency's on like a retainer and they're not really on the same wavelength or the same metrics as your store, they might be apathetic of actually really trying to scale quickly. So that means that like the human in charge of your ads isn't doing it for the right reasons, basically. Whereas with Big Cap, we're basically telling, or we're using like Meta's data points and statistical modeling to work out what's a winner and what isn't. People always tell me like, how does Meta know what's going to work and what's not going to work? It's based on their modeling, and I'm not going to go into like the intrinsic data, but it basically pinpoints a lot of different modeling and previous auctions. There's billions of auctions per day, and it has that modeling of what's going to work and what's not going to work. And it's actually crazy, like what sometimes does work for our account, like ad creatives that we wouldn't have tried in a million years, that are getting like really, really good ROAS, a lot of spend to it. So you're actually leaving your cognitive biases when you're basically saying, let Facebook decide. So the last one is time. This is very much, I would say, this is a little bit more subjective than the other ones. You might argue that all of them are subjective and I might have biases myself, but time is very much, I think it's still high amount of time for different reasons, basically. So lowest cost has high time because you're making optimizations after you run the ad. There's a lot of things that you need to kill, turn back on, everything in between. make decisions in a day, and optimize basically. Where big caps are less optimization. It's every new test is a test, and you act accordingly. But big cap has that issue where you have to test a lot more creative if you want the same spend. So there's different types of time um, cons- being consuming, and essentially what you need to kind of think of is, do you want the media buying logic done by Meta, and you can focus on new angles, new ways to increase your creative output? I would rather spend a lot more time on making more creative, because that's more of a revenue making thing that you can do, leaving the media buying logic to Meta. So this is kind of my perspective. I think there's a lot of different ways of doing ads, and I'm not discrediting lowest cost at all, because it works for a lot of brands, a lot of agencies, big or small. But let me know if this is interesting, and get back to you. And yeah, if you like any of these, have a look at some of my other big cap strategies. I'm also going to create a roadmap where I'm running exactly big caps from a relatively new account. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks.